I'm proud of the way where our guys were mentally. I think at this point, as a coach, what you need to do is make sure your team is in the right mindset, the right approach, they're in control, and they control their performance.
The Utah Mammoth get beaten their playoff opener. There's the head coach, Andre Torney, right there, and love the approach. They led after one period. They led 2-1 after two periods, but they get beat 4-2 as they give up 3 goals in the third, the last one an empty netter. And it just didn't seem quite as crisp and locked in from getting the goaltender off the ice when they wanted the extra skater there in the last couple minutes. That seemed a little things didn't seem quite crisp and on point, PK. And, man, on that broadcast, they made a big deal about the Mammoth lack of playoff experience, the Mammoth ability through those first 2 periods to answer everything Vegas threw at them. Walking away from that game, I did think, how are they going to score? The goals were coming they were just coming in bunches. They were coming so fast at the end of the year. But playoff hockey's bound to be different. There's way more jersey on the ice. There's way more attitude, more checking, more collisions, more, if not fighting, like skirmishes and that kind of stuff. And it seems like they need an extra gear. And it seemed like Vegas found one in that third period.
Well, so you're saying that you were their skater boys, I'll see you later, boys? I mean, let's give them an opportunity to warm up to the situation here. We always go nuts. We do this as basketball. Oh, my gosh, Detroit lost home court. Oh, let's break them up. Let's sell the franchise and move them. It's one game.
They're done. They're cooked.
Yeah, every year. Let's just see what happens here. As far as them seeing what this is about and the younger guys. And, I mean, obviously you're going to go into the final period up. You're in the game. And so the way I look at it is they scored 2 goals. Those empty netters, they count. I get it, but they don't really count in the context of how the game is played, right? They count on the scoreboard, so you got to go in that direction, and that's the official score is 4-2. But what can they learn from it? What can the coaching staff impart? Because they're going to be veteran guys. And there are a couple, they got some veteran guys on the team. And so where do they go from here? It seemed like there was a bunch of guys that Vegas was going to be physical and it's going to knock you around. And guys like Dursey find themselves on the ice laying down and guys are on top of them or standing over them and all that. And what can you do to match it, and can you get back to playing what your style is? Keller and his line didn't have a very good game, or at least impact the game the way they want to. So what can they do there to make that better, different? Let's see what happens. We were talking to the Vegas guy on Friday, and he was talking about how he expects the series to be 2-2.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, so that's something that, you got at that point, it's anybody's series, obviously. It becomes best of 3. We'll see if it even gets to that. But the point being, this guy has been following his Vegas team all season. We haven't. And he's expecting it to be a tight series. The thing that's concerning me is teams can get on runs. We talked about the Mets earlier, and for whatever reason, man, they can't buy a break. If there's going to be something going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. It's going to happen, right? Losing 11 in a row, not on a team that is understood to be rebuilding. They signed Bichette off Toronto here with the idea of contending in this, and Lindor and Soto and all that stuff, right? And it's not happening for them. Well, on the flip side, the Golden Knights make a change, 9 games ago, counting this game last night with Tortorella, and they haven't lost. So that makes me a little concerned. Are they just on some magical run? They've struck lightning. Every time you make a coaching change, that's what you're hoping to do, is strike lightning. We've even heard that phrase used in those situations. They shake it up right at the end, and they haven't lost. They're 8-0-1 since he's been there. I don't know what's going on. I don't know that they know, but can they ride that wave of momentum? Maybe so. And I would expect that they would win the series, but let's see what the Mammoth can do to adjust.
They had that graphic during the game that during that stretch, and this would actually be a little worrisome, I think. It will be encouraging for Vegas and then worrisome for the Mammoth, is that in this streak, the average score, and they had it out like a couple decimals, I forget what it was, like 4.16 or something like that to 1.88 goals. It was basically 4-2. And then they went out and won a 4-2 game. Now, like you said, we weren't there watching these 8 games in the streak, but it's basically, did they unlock something? Is this what they do?
Right.
Right down to it was the average score, which probably, those games probably factored in some empty netters, just as we saw an empty netter.
Of course, you have to.
Yeah. And on the call, we played it earlier this morning, that second goal, I thought Mike Folta identified it correctly live, and it was hard to tell what the heck happened, even with the first couple of replays on TV. But it looked like a bounce, like the goaltender made the save, and then the defenseman's facing his own goal, and it comes up and it hits his body and then takes a bounce and goes in. And he's swinging at it with a stick, but with the hop, it just swung through it. So it was a break to get that second goal. As much as this is about great defense and all that, how are the Mammoth going to find a way to score? And it could just be as simple as, hey, one line can't be on every game. Keller's line could come out and be really good in game 2. I mean, who's to say?
Right, and it's going to have to be.
It is going to have to be. I agree with that. They're going to need something, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty quiet.
Tortorella's been around the block a long time. He's been coaching for almost 40 years. He's 67 years old. He's calling Kyle Whittingham, hey, what's up, kid?
Hey, kid.
And so that does have a little bit of level of concern. And we're not to this point yet, but we could very well get there where it's like, okay, yeah, man, we had a good season. Our goal was to make the playoffs, and we did. I don't want that to settle in. You cannot accept anything under any circumstances. You're not playing with house money. This is professional sports. You're playing with real money. It's not fake money, and it's not somebody else's money. It's your money, literally and figuratively. I refuse to, at the pro level, which is now the college level, accept that, we're playing with house money. It doesn't really matter. Yes, it does. I know you reached your initial goal, but no team just has one goal, and that's it. And when you catch the rabbit, they take you out of the race in dog racing. No. Because it's not a real rabbit, and you find out, okay, he ain't going to do that anymore. No, that's not the case here. You've come too far to roll over. Not that I'm saying that they will, but I'm concerned if it gets to that point that'll be the mindset, and I don't like that mindset. I want something to the wall at all times.
Well, they found another gear to play at in the playoffs, but then when it required yet another upgrade there in the third period, they weren't up to it. But it was their first playoff game, so, hey, figure it out, go out, figure out a way to solve that problem in game 2, and it's 1-1, and then you're down to a best of 5, and maybe that 2-2 prediction will end up being spot on. Maybe that'll be it. We'll talk about that with Jay Stevens, host of the Utah Puck Report. He's going to join us coming up at 9:05.
Right. To me, this is just it's fun. As the fans, I don't have any problem if fans want to take that perspective, but I don't want the players to think, well, we achieved our goal. I find it fun. I have a little throwback to my youth because in Los Angeles, I was doing tons of sidebars for Kings hockey in the playoffs, the secondary stories. I was doing the visitors' locker room and interviewing the likes of Jeff Courtnall. I don't know, people don't remember him. But that was a long time ago, and then I move up here, and we don't have that. And so I'm not doing that. So I got away from that. It's fun to get back into it and cover a hockey series in the manner that I did in the early 90s. Which is forever ago, I know that, and to see the types of things that fans can relate to with basketball, the twists and turns, and I think that in basketball, it's more of a predictable sport than you have in the hockey. So things that you think for years, okay, the statues are going to control the game for the Jazz, and Jerry Sloan's going to stand up and put the 4 down signal, right? I mean, set our watches by it, and they're going to sub, especially when John got older. We knew everything. If you followed the team, you knew the familiarities, right? Well, this sport can be a little unpredictable. As you just said, the Mammoth were fortunate to get a lucky bounce, and someone was there, boom, goal, away you go. Well, suppose you get 2 lucky bounces or 3 lucky bounces, It can happen. Things can change quickly. I mean, just look at when the game was 1-0, and then boom, and then it goes to 1-1, and then 2-1,
2-1, real quick.
And then right, exactly. You can just go up and down, up and down, up and down, and in terms of scoring, nothing is happening. There's action, but it's not resulting in points on the board. Well, and then boom, in a 2 or 3 minute span. That's what makes this sport unpredictable and exciting. And you sit there and you watch it, and a lot of times you can't even figure out what happened until they really slow it down. And then they got to slow it down like 2 or 3 times before you can really see what happened. Because it just goes by so fast. Things can happen here. And
the other replay that I thought was really telling was in the third period, and they were down by then 3-2, and they had a really good sequence that ended up with, I think it was Schmidt getting a shot. I mean, he's just basically just walking straight in. It had the whole goal to shoot at, and no one skating to him. He took the shot, and it looked like it was on target, and it looked like Hart got the deflection with like his right collarbone, right? Just really fortunate. And it's a game of inches. Pablo said this once about soccer, and it's true about hockey too. It's a little whimsical, right? You take the shot, it hits the frame. Does it go in or does it go out? It hits the pipes. Does it go in or go out? You got a round puck hitting a round frame, and what happens? It's like you need a little luck and a little good fortune mixed in with all the other stuff.
I think so, to an extent. Yeah, right.
You got to bring the toughness and hit it, and you got to the tactical awareness. Obviously, Keller got beat goal side. That's a little more strategic, and that was the first goal. But you still need some breaks. A collarbone save, Hart was fortunate. He did the right things, but then in the end he was fortunate.
Yeah, I think that you have to be putting yourselves in the position to take advantage of it. It's like a fumble in football. Yeah. It could be scooting around and squirting left and right, and then some big lineman is right there. But he's only right there because he's taught to be right there. And you don't give up, and you keep going because you don't know what's going to happen, and then you take advantage of it if that opportunity comes. I think the same type of thing here. So I would never bet, and it's easy to say that I expected it, and I would have bet. And if I'm back in Jersey, I just got a smack in the back of the head. Shut up! You don't say you would have bet. You say you did bet. And so that's the way bettors reacted. They don't want to hear that you're second guessing and you got no money on it. They want to see your ticket stub that says, yeah, I bet on it and I did what I did, and so I called it ahead of time. Then you got credibility. So I have zero credibility when I say this. I understand that, is that I would have thought that this would have been the result just because of the lack of exposure. Not just experience, but exposure. And then, Sergachev can have all the experience that he wants, but he's playing with guys who don't have the experience.
Yeah.
So that puts him in a different situation as opposed to when he was with Tampa. It's totally different now, so it doesn't really matter how much experience he had. Now, if he's got 6-7 guys, as Tampa did when they're doing their thing, that's another story. And so everybody's got it together. This group doesn't have it together as far as the experience goes. So to me, and totally easy to say, I get it, because I didn't go on Twitter or whatever and say, I expect them to lose on Saturday or Sunday morning, afternoon. But I'm really not surprised by this result. And let's see what they do tomorrow night. And that's the great thing about it, is that, we get going here every other day. They get a travel day from Vegas to here isn't much, but because then they play again on Friday, and so we'll see where they're at that point.
All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Surprising development in some stories over the weekend. Well, surprising to me, the big money just gets bigger. This whole thought of donor fatigue, man, if you want to compete, PK, mounds and mounds of cash. We will get to that next. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Want to get the latest info on Utah's newest sports franchise?
Sign up for the Utah Mammoth newsletter.
Get exclusive analysis.
Plus the latest news and notes on the Utah Mammoth.
Sign up today at KSLSports.com
for the Utah Mammoth newsletter.